Blog Talk Radio.
Race fans, we got something special just for you. Listen in as Chris, Yellow Caution Flag Creighton, and Mr. CJ Sports are in the studio. The 110 Nation Race Chat Live exclusive, bringing you interviews from drivers, promoters, and crews of all types of racing. These are interviews you do not want to miss, so make sure you guys check it out. All right. Hey, catch me off guard every time, Chris, when it cuts off. Welcome, everybody, to the 110 Nation Race Chat Live exclusive. You got Chris, Yellow Caution Flag Creighton in the studio with myself, Mr. CJ Sports. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Yeah. I mean, I'm coming off of being a famous race car announcer. I got my entourage here. I mean, we're just chilling in the Lear, firing up some stogies, man. We're supposed to fly out and come see you.
Oh, Lordy. Hey, I see you there in the points. I'm going to let you in a little secret. I think it's going to come down to me and you for our little race pool thing we got going on here with the Race Chat Live 110 Nation Race Pool. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope that I gained another extra point on you because I really think I'm going to need it. It's going to come down, we've got 3 races left? Oh, my gosh. I mean, 9 points right now separate me and you in the pool.
Oh, Lord. How about we let them know what you guys got going on tomorrow night? I'm going to let them know what we got going on Wednesday night before we get our guest on here tonight.
No doubt. Look, surprise, Kyle Larson seals the deal. He's going to race for a championship. It's gotten me turned off. I'm sure I'll start the whole show off with a big rant why I don't like Kyle Larson. But, just listen to it tomorrow night because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do like Kyle Larson. So maybe I can garner up a few listeners as I go on my weekly rant. But, sure enough, Tuesday night, Race Chat Live. We only got a few shows left, so make sure you join us. We'll make it fun. And, y'all just join us and on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Also, Thursday night, Mr. CJ Sports, I think there's something going on. And Wednesday nights, the one thing about all these shows is they start at 8 p.m. Eastern time. How about that?
Most definitely. I like how that all played out. Wednesday night, Mario and myself will be in the Carolina Sports Plus studio. We're going to be recapping some college football, talk about this last week in the NFL, a crazy week. My Cleveland Browns managed to upset the 49ers. I will tell you right now, both the boys in my house thought I was the craziest person in the world when I jumped up and screamed and ran through the house when the 49ers missed a 41-yard field goal, sealing the deal for the Cleveland Browns. I was very excited about that. But we got a lot of things to cover Wednesday night on the 110 Nation Sports Show, so looking forward to that as well. Make sure you guys go over to 110nationsportsradionetwork.com. Got our shows, got our videos, got our blogs, marketing partners, show schedules, and also all the links to all the different platforms that our shows are on. You guys can catch us on iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Podchasers, GeoSavian, YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you catch your blog or your podcast, you guys can catch the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network there. So make sure you guys check that out. Like us on Facebook, like Race Chat Live on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Just very excited about this week and everything going on here at the 110 Nation Race Chat Live and everybody involved. We got our guest in the studio. I'm going to go ahead and get him plugged in. He is a returning guest to the network. It's been a hot minute, a little bit different than the trend we had been in or been on over the last handful of guests. We're going from those that are still in high school to those that have a degree. So a little change in pace. So looking forward to catching up with Patrick. Patrick, how you doing tonight?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks very much for having me on.
No problem. Glad to have you back. It's been a hot minute. Before we jump into everything, why don't you give you a chance to kind of plug a little bit different because you got a lot of things going on. But anything race-wise or professional-wise you want to plug, but more so if you just want to stick to the racing website, sponsors, anybody that's out there that's helping. I know you guys just ran last month. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But anything you want to throw out there for the fans and listeners to be able to keep up, follow, or for those you want to thank before we jump into this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as always, you can follow me on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at 97 Patrick Star, and like the SpongeBob character, but I had my name first. And I'm still racing my super late model down in Florida. I drive for Jim McCoy, so always have to thank him for keeping me employed in the race car and going around the track. And we've had some great support this year from Umatilla Veterans Village. They build homes for veterans in the North Florida area. They've been a great partner to us. Shadow Graphics, Sunoco Race Fuel, and Gator Plum, and they're longtime sponsors of Jimmy and his team, and they've been keeping us racing this year. And like you said, I've had some big personal job developments too outside of racing. So I just moved from Florida out here to Houston, Texas, and I joined a group called Retina Consultants of Texas. So I finished all my schooling, like you mentioned, and I'm a retina surgeon now. So that's what I do on the weekdays, and I've been racing on the weekends, and that's going to be the balance here going forward. So got to thank all those people for letting me do two things that I love.
Kind of want to bring up, talk a couple things, and it's kind of going to go back and forth with this. But first, what's it like to change for you from going Florida to Texas? That's a big move. I know I recently, 4 years ago, but recently moved from North Carolina to Ohio, and it's been a big adjustment. What's it been like for you to move going from Florida to Texas, and how has that been settling in Texas?
Yeah, man, it's a big move. It's very different here than South Florida. I mean, I grew up down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, was born and raised, and the only time I spent away was college. I was in Boston for 4 years, and then I did live in North Carolina for a year when I was racing the K&N cars and the ARCA stuff, and so not that much time away from Florida. So coming out here to Texas has been a big adjustment, but I joined a great group. There's a lot of people who trained at the same hospital in Miami who work out here. And trying to, put some feelers out and get involved in the racing scene here. There's a short track out here just outside of Houston, so I'm gonna go check out the races this weekend. But it's cool. It's a new adventure, and I still get to go back and forth to Florida and do what I love. So.
Is the track availability the same? Like, I know there's a lot of tracks in Florida. I've been in Florida. My brother used to live in Florida. I've been by New Smyrna. I've been to Daytona. I've been to Miami Homestead. I know there's a lot of tracks. We've had a lot of drivers, and I got a lot of people I'm still in contact with. I know there's a lot of tracks in Florida. I don't know what the local scene is like in Texas. Is it abundant supply for tracks for you to be able to get in and on, or is it a different scene when it comes to the local racing for you?
Yeah, a little bit different scene. I think it's more dirt out here than asphalt. They used to have more asphalt tracks, and then the only one that's open now is Houston Motorsports Park, which is only like 20 minutes away from downtown. I think just shy of 3/8 miles to asphalt track with concrete corners. So it looks like a pretty cool place. And they were kind of shut down a little bit during COVID, but I think they opened up, ran like 6 races this year, and plan to have a bigger schedule next year. So, looking to get involved in that. And then obviously the closest tracks for late model racing, you got, Mobile and Pensacola and Montgomery, which is further away down towards the Panhandle, but hoping to do, racing all through this area.
Now, obviously, a great accomplishment with the whole doctor thing. What was tougher for you, becoming the doctor or the whole racing career? 'Cause those both, that takes a lot of skill in what you're doing in both of those.
Yeah, thanks a lot. They're both tough, man. I'd say the biggest difference between the two is, racing, as you know from talking to lots of people and having lots of guests on here, it takes a lot of talent, takes a lot of luck, knowing the right people and having the right, finances and sponsors behind you to make the deal happen. And, for some people it works out perfect, and others, try their butt off and you can be successful racing the level that you're at, and you never quite make it all the way. So I think that's what makes racing hard. And then medicine, on the other hand, obviously is a ton of work, lots of years of school. You take out a bunch of money in loans, and you go into debt, and you do the whole journey. But if you work really, really hard, it's all up to you. You can kind of get to, the end point that you want, which I just, finished my residency, my fellowship, and here I am. So they're both challenging in their own way. But one of them, you definitely get to the end point. The other one is kind of a toss-up in the air. So.
Patrick, this is Chris. So look, I've already listened to you for about 5 minutes. I noticed one thing about it. Discipline. That's it. Obviously, it's been something you trained yourself pretty well at doing. Most of the time in racing, it's very hard to find a disciplined person, because we're so on the rail, and you gotta have a lot of money to go fast. So you put a lot of time and effort, money into your operation. Where did you get that discipline to be able to separate and kind of maximize each opportunity, but yet still succeed in it? Because so many times we throw it all in the toolbox and it becomes scattered. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it probably goes back to, my parents and how they raised me and the deal that we made when I first started racing. I grew up, my dad and my grandpa both raced. My dad owned a repair shop, so I was always around cars and working on them. And I wanted to race, and my parents were like, "That's cool, but you're only going to get behind the wheel if you do well in school." So, from first grade that you could start getting grades, I got straight A's and carried it all through school like that because I wanted to race so bad. So I think that's where some of that determination and focus comes in. Like you're saying, I always had to achieve in school so I can get the opportunity to race. And then, racing, when you do go out and do it, it is expensive. It does, take a lot of effort and time. You got to make those opportunities count too. So I think from an early age, I kind of, could split my focus between both of them. And I've used that same skill and time management and all that stuff to keep doing it, now over about 20 years, I guess, since I first started racing go-karts to now I'm 33. So, yeah, that's what you do.
So about 10 years ago, you were considered an up-and-coming star. How did things how did you wind up in med school?
So it's funny you say this. I was already in med school at that time. So you're right. It was about 10 years ago. I entered the Peak Stock Car Dream Challenge. I was home for the summer after my first year of med school and saw a commercial on TV with Danica Patrick saying, if you want to drive for Michael Waltrip Racing or, get an opportunity in NASCAR, you should enter this contest. So I put my video on YouTube. They had like 900 entries. They picked 9 of us to go do that competition in Charlotte. And fortunately, they picked me as the winner, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime at the time. And I got to, drive for Bill McAnally Racing in the K&N series and was a development driver for MWR. And all of that was great. So I took a year off just on that. I got to run 5 races with Peak that year. We won the K&N race out at Irwindale. And it was great, man. I had the time of my life doing that. And like you said, you need all the pieces to keep falling together to make it happen. And, beyond that year, there really wasn't sponsorship available. And I had to make a decision about continuing in med school or dropping out, essentially, after that year. So I went with the safe route. I got the schooling done. And, once you finish med school, you have to do residency, fellowship. There's a bunch more steps to it before you can actually, go
complete
practice on your own. Right. So, yeah. So finally got to that point now. And, that's how it happened.
That's so many times, Patrick, we see that commitment into racing, and then when they don't quite make it as far as they wanted to go, they're kind of lost in career, lost in life. A lot of them wind up in shops building motors for, some of these bigger powerhouses. You were completely focused enough to advert and fall back. You literally fell back onto going to med school. And that to me is, man, I admire that.
Thanks a lot, man. You always got to have a solid backup plan, and I think it's my parents that always made me think about my future no matter what. So either way, it could have worked out. Would have been great. And the way it's working right now, I'm a doctor, and I still get to go racing and win races. Like you said, we won one here last month. So I don't really feel like I gave up on the dream on either end. So I'm really lucky to get to do both.
Yeah, let's get to that. So you've taken, obviously, you had to devote a lot of time and attention to that, but now you've kind of got a little bit of free time on your hands. So tell me, what's the strategy on getting back in the race car full time? And you got some help coming about. I mean, you're 33 years old. You still got plenty of time to have a whole lot of fun in late model stock car racing.
Oh yeah, that's the plan, 100%. So. The team I've been driving for in Florida, Jim McCoy Racing, they obviously still want to keep racing together. We have good success anytime we get together and get to the racetrack. So we are running a couple more races this year. Thanksgiving weekend is the Billy Bigley Memorial, which is becoming one of the bigger super late model races in the country. It's going to be at Freedom Factory, which is the old DeSoto Speedway, which they haven't had a late model race there in, I think, over 10 years. And they're paying $35,000 to win, so it's drawing some of the best late model racers in the country. So really excited to get back home and run that one. And I'm really lucky, the setup I got here with this job, and one of their cool selling points is we're going to try to find a way to combine my passion for racing with medicine. And we're working on some really cool stuff next year that's going to help me do my daily duties at work, but then also go out and represent on the weekends and go racing. So hopefully we'll have something to announce here pretty soon, but it's a really unique opportunity they gave me to come out here and keep doing both of these things. So going to be racing a lot.
Austin, Patrick. So let me ask you real quick before I send you back to Mr. CJ Sports, Jason. We had a guy on Austin Terriot, I think was his name. Were you in that same class like with him? He's a state representative now in Maine. I think that's how we kicked this show off. The exclusive was with Austin. So you know him? Y'all raced together?
Yeah, I know Austin. We were all around the same time, and I think he's close buddies with my friend Joey Coulter, and they had like a driver development program going on at one point. So I heard Austin got into politics. That's awesome for him.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So we've had a politician on. Now we've got a doctor on, and it's all connected to race cars. That's cool. That's all.
Yep,
that's great.
Exactly. Car drivers going out doing good things.
That's it. Mr. CJ Sports.
Before last weekend, last month, when you ended up winning your race, how often have you been in the car for this? How often have you been in the car this season?
So actually, that was only the second race, of the year. So I was, finishing training, things were busy, but we actually decided to, replace the front clip on Jimmy's car since last October was the last time we had run. So we cut the clip off of it. We brought it to Dean Clattenburg at Clattenburg Racing Fabrication, and he put a new clip on, and we took our time getting the car back together and went and tested it. We ran New Smyrna about a month before our last race, and that was the first time out with the car, and we had some bugs to work out, but we had a strong fifth place run there, and I hadn't been to New Smyrna in probably like 5-6 years now. So we knew the car ran good there, and then we took it to Auburndale, which is where we raced last month, and I think it was great, right off the truck. We qualified second. I think we missed the pole by like 1,000th of a second, and the race started, and the thing was just on rails. We were second for about half the race, and then Jonathan Guy ended up braking. We got by him, and then just pulled away and won at the end. So it's great anytime you take the time to chop, cut, and rebuild the car, and you go back out and you have success right off the bat. You know that you made a good move. So yeah.
How tough is it to not be in the car, but a couple times, and it's been a big gap to jump in there? Not only to jump in there, but you won. But how difficult is it for a driver just to jump into a car they've been with the conditioning and everything that involves to be an athlete in this type of sport? How hard is it, or how? I'm not gonna say easy. I mean, you made it look easy. You won the race, but how hard is it to just, I'm gonna get back in the car and not miss a beat?
Yeah, man, it's hard. It's something I've always had to deal with because school's always taken a lot of time. But you're racing against some people who do this professionally for a living are running 40, 50
yes.
races a year. And, my busiest seasons will run, 8 or 10 races or so. So you have to, jump in, be ready to go. And like you said, Florida is no joke. It gets hot down there. It'll get 120, 130 degrees in the car. So you got to be ready for the conditioning and, mentally be ready and really just know what the car needs right in that first practice, because if you're not good off the truck, it's really hard to get it dialed in by the time you race. So I think just having raced for as long as I have, I'm pretty good at picking it back up again. But obviously, if you were racing more often, that would be better.
Most definitely with that heat. Like North Carolina was enough. See, it was one of the great things about moving back to Ohio was you can always put enough on in the cold. You can't take enough off in that summer heat, especially you start getting North Carolina on down. I used to visit my brother, and we hardly, other than going to Daytona, the track, we hardly went outside because it was always so miserably hot, especially when I visited in summertime. I went to a couple of 500s, and I went to quite a few of the 400 races. And then I remember going to Miami Homestead when it was still a championship race, and you're talking November, and it's still 80 degrees at night in the middle of the night, and it just blew my mind. You talk about Texas, and you talk about a lot of dirt tracks. I don't recall, have you ran a lot of dirt tracks or any dirt tracks at all? And if not, how much of an adjustment, or if so, how much difference or adjustment is it for you to go from asphalt to dirt for you?
Yeah, I've never raced any dirt stuff. The only thing I've done is drive a Packer car around the dirt track at Charlotte, like one time. That's the extent of my dirt experience. But I mean, I've always said I'll drive anything with a steering wheel and 4 wheels on it. So if I ever had an opportunity to go dirt racing, I would 100% give it a go. But it's a whole different skill set, and a lot of these guys growing up racing those types of cars are so far ahead. I think you look at even people as good as Chase Elliott that have tried recently to go dirt racing. It's a big learning curve for people who are even that good on asphalt. So different deal, but there's a lot of dirt tracks here. So if I start getting out onto a dirt track, I'm sure you'll hear about it. Either be really good or really bad.
You say that anything with a steering wheel, but I know you drivers better than that. I know we've had one of the drivers that had something to do with a bathtub in a race. So I know you guys can find a way to race anything. And I tell people all the time growing up, and I'm getting ready to kick you back to Chris because Chris got some questions. I was that kind of competitive person. Of course, I was never into be able to race, but we used to take, and this is totally sidetracked, and I'm going to get you to Chris. We used to take pieces of grass. Well, we used to take Matchbox cars and race them down the driveway at a slight angle. But we also, if anybody washed their car, all the water would run to the middle of the road and then run down to the drain. And we would go to the highest point, and we'd all get a piece of grass, and we would let the grass race to the sewer drain. That's how competitive we were, and into really anything when you get to race. But, Chris, go ahead.
Good. Yeah, man, I don't know if I can top that. You know you got it bad, right? So let's get back into this real quick because, of course, I've had time to sit here and think, you got surgical hands, right? So at what point in time did you realize as a young man maybe it was trying to get the clutch on the go-kart or something like that? At what point, how did you get such defined hands? Because obviously there's a relation between a mechanic and a surgical a surgeon, right? You're using tools. Tell us about how that kind of worked out with each other there, and at what age were you when you realized you were really good at working with tools?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I grew up working on cars. My dad was a mechanic, so I'd hang out at the shop with them, and whether it was regular passenger cars or my dad was working on his race car, he was running street stocks and then late models, there towards the end of his time driving, and I just love working on anything, with my hands and making a car go faster is like the end goal. And you come up with something new or different way of fixing a problem, different adjustment to make on the car at a certain time. I mean, I love doing that. And I obviously have help now with the late model that I drive, but I do like, setting the cars up and coming up with different packages to try at different places. And it's a mental game as much as it's a, fix it with your hands kind of thing. Hanging bodies, all that stuff is, a side passion of mine besides the driving. So I think when I was in med school and I started looking at, the types of specialties and whether you're just going to be in clinic or you wanted to do surgery, I knew I wanted to do something with my hands, because you kind of just get into that mode. And I'm sure you guys know when you start working and everything else just tunes out and you focus on one task, and you make something really cool happen. And as a surgeon now, I get to do that same thing. And, people who have really bad stuff happen to their eyes, retinal detachments, or they have diabetes and bleeding in their eye and stuff like that, I can fix that and make them see better and have a better quality of life after that. And that's something cool. So I could do that with my hands, and I can also, put a clip on a race car if I need to too. So it's a similar mindset, and I like being able to do that.
That's great. So is there any plans, of running maybe a touring series, or you planning on coming down to the Snowball Derby at Five Flags? What's your later of the year plans, or for next year?
Yeah, so I think we're probably going to try to pick and choose races that'll work with the schedule. So I have my work schedule, and then Jimmy McCoy, he still works full time too. So whenever we can line him up, we try to just cherry pick the good ones. But it's funny you say. I mean, the Derby has always been a bucket list item for me. I've never even been to watch the race, so I want to eventually check it out someday. And obviously running the Blizzard races is a good way to get prepared. And I'd love, in the next couple of years to really make a go at that with, the right equipment and the right support and all of that would be kind of a dream come true, just to come run that race. And then if you can run well in it, that'd be even better. So that's the goal. But right now we're kind of just freestyling the schedule, and just looking forward to racing a little bit more going forward than I have the last couple of years, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Last question before I send you back to Jason, we close this interview out. Is there any, we live in the time of PED, is there anything that an athlete can do or a race car driver can do, an enhancement in their eyes that would make them a better driver? Because some of them just can't seem to be able to see. They hit everything on the racetrack.
Lord.
You notice there's a lot of cup drivers. I watch the races on TV. They're all starting to wear more glasses now than I ever seen before. So that makes you wonder how long they were driving around blind before they realized it. So probably the only thing from an eyesight perspective. I think that would help.
Oh, Lord.
I had to ask that one.
Good.
Obviously, a lot of races towards the East Coast with the race team. Is there any tracks out west or any desire to race anything out west? And is that feasible with the team that you do all your racing with?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to run out west. When I did the K&N stuff, it was a lot of West Coast races, and the racing scene out there is awesome. Winning at Irwindale, I'd grown up watching races on TV there and always wanted to race there. So that was kind of a dream come true. But they get plenty of cool tracks. The Vegas Bull Ring, Kern County. I've always wanted to run Evergreen. Looks like an awesome place. So they're all on the list. Being based in South Florida, the team that I drive for, it'd be kind of hard to get out there. But obviously, if any opportunities ever came up, someday I'm gonna make it out there and hit those tracks.
Patrick, I want to thank you. We try to make sure we get everybody out of here on time. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to congratulate you not only on the win last month, but also your accomplishments. I couldn't imagine not only being a race car driver, but being a doctor and all the long hours and all the years. And I was sitting there thinking after I asked the question about the doctor and the race thing, and you started talking. I was like, one makes money, then one costs you money, but then you started talking about all the student loans and all the. I was like, I think sounds like both of them kind of run you into a lot of money, cost you a lot of money. But I do wish you the most success, and I definitely want to congratulate you on that, on the doctorate. Definitely would love to get you back on maybe toward at the end of the season when everything's wrapped up, or in the off season once the plans are official for next year and you know exactly what you're doing. But I definitely want to thank you once again before we get you out of here. Any website, social media, sponsors, anything you want to throw out there again? That way the listeners can keep up with you and the sponsors can stay happy with you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Pleasure being on the show. Good chatting with you guys again. Love to be back on anytime. Everyone that wants to follow along, check out PatrickStarpoli.com, at 97 Patrick Star, and all the social media. big thank you again to Jim McCoy, his team, Umatilla Veterans Village, NOCO Race Fuel. Sounds like I just won a race or something. Shadow Graphics and Gator Plumbing. They keep that car going.
Before you go,
thank you guys very much.
Before you go, I wanted to ask this earlier, and I got sidetracked. The 97 involved with all that. Is there meaning, or is there meaning behind the 97, or just random 97?
So that was the number my dad and my grandpa both ran, and I asked my grandfather, he passed several years ago, but before he did, I asked him why he chose that number, and he told me he showed up at a quarter midget race, his first race. He didn't know he had to have a number on the car. He was at the entry gate, and they told him you need to come up with a number. So he said he looked at the list, and all the low numbers were taken, so he just randomly picked a high one, and that's it.
All right.
So I've lived and died by
Patrick.
97. That's how I lived it. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I want to thank you once again, and we'll be talking to you again here soon.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Oh, another great interview, great other conversation, Chris, and the points are updated. I'm going to let you in a little secret. I gained a point on you. We're only 8 points apart now. Just want to throw that out there real quick.
How did you gain a point on me? Who did you pick?
I don't know. I picked Kyle Busch.
I finished like fifth.
So I don't know. He finished like
How
third.
did you gain a point?
I don't
Kyle
know.
Busch
I
did?
don't do the points. I don't
Oh
do the
my
points. I
gosh.
just saw the update.
So you gained a point on me. Lord, I'm only 8 points ahead of you now. My goodness gracious.
8 points
Well,
ahead
it's
of
gonna
me,
get
9
interesting.
points ahead of Brianna, and 18 points ahead of Anthony are our top four right now going into these last couple of races. So just want to throw
you
that
better
out
pick
there.
a
The race
high-side
just got
hustler.
a point closer.
Yeah, you better pick,
All
you better
right,
pick a high-side hustler.
Don't forget, tomorrow night, you guys can catch Race Chat Live. I will be catching Race Chat Live as well, listening to the guys, Chris, Taz, Miss Lee, as they recap last weekend and get you guys ready for next week. Mario and myself will be on Wednesday night. We'll be getting you guys capped up on everything on the big topics in the rest of the sports world, and getting our Week 7 picks out for the NFL and recap Deion Sanders' epic fail, a 29-point lead, 29-0 point lead, vanishes and they lose in double overtime. We got many things to talk about. And, of course, Thursday night, Safety to Success, Jared Hudson. Always a great guest. I forget who the second guy was. I want to say something Johns. Oh, my God, they were hilarious. I don't know if you caught that, Chris, but I got to listen to all three of his guests on last Thursday. Always a good time, always very informative. Love listening to Safety to Success. Make sure you guys check that out as well. Anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap this out there, Chris?
No, just, not on anything other than Jared has done an amazing job. And we had that opening on Thursday night, and without a doubt, I knew that he was the guy for that slot, and it's just amazing to hear how well he's doing, and how everybody's responding to him. That's just it makes us feel real good that we've got the right guy in the right spot. So kudos to Jared, and we hope he gains a lot of success and keeps on putting out some of these awesome shows.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Chris, for being with me tonight. Looking forward to seeing who we got next week, and you guys all have a great night.
Bye-bye.